When you hear that a particular IEM was tuned to the 2019 Harman target, you might figure you already have a basic idea of how it might sound. The general tuning profile, the perceived performance at a given price, and you might feel that you need to look at other factors such as build and comfort to see what makes a particular IEM stand out from the crowd. At least that's how I was starting to feel lately with more and more budget-oriented IEMs coming out with the Harman target as part of their marketing. But then Simgot called. Hey there, I'm Jamie from Side Salad Audio, and we're looking at the Simgot EM6L, or Phoenix as its packaging and logo depicts. This is a hybrid, one dynamic driver, 4 balanced armature IEM that comes in for around $110, which I would consider as the higher price bracket within the budget range of IEMs. Now, Simgot did send this unit over for review, but that doesn't influence what I say, and I'm not being paid or incentivized to give a positive review. Let's just start by jumping straight into the sound, since for many that is the most important factor to consider, and I won't keep you waiting. The EM6L states on the product page that it's tuned towards the 2019 Harman in-ear target. And while it does generally follow the mid-range and bass to upper mids delta of the Harman target, it's not a one-to-one adherence to the bass and treble. It's worth noting that the Harman target itself is meant to be what 60% of listeners in the studies preferred, but the research also recognizes that the individuals do have different preferences for things like bass and treble, and encourages you to adjust these to your preference. You may know that I myself am not always the biggest fan of strict adherence to the in-ear Harman target, even though I am a fan of the over-ear Harman target. Some IEMs that I've used that are tuned strictly to the in-ear target come across as too shouty for my liking. The EM6L seems to avoid that problem and instead sounds both smooth, but not blunted or lacking any sense of detail. One thing that you will notice when looking at the graph is the treble. On my graphs, it does seem rather boosted, and in-ear it is slightly bright leaning, but not as much as you may assume based on just looking at the graph. It's worth noting that I'm using a clone 711 coupler, and they aren't the most accurate or comparable with each other in these higher frequencies. Even official Grass or BNK couplers that follow IEC 603.18-4 are only rated for up to about 10 kHz. But what I do find interesting about the treble and what we see on these graphs is how it lacks the typical resonance peak and then dip that you see in most 711 measurements. I can't really say for sure what that means, especially using a 711, but all I can say is that to my ear, the treble doesn't sound overly bright or fatiguing, even though it does seem to graph a bit higher in this region. What really makes this IEM stand out sound-wise is its sense of imaging and separation. I'm someone who doesn't really put too much weight into the perception of soundstage, but perceived imaging and separation are things that I do really feel make a headphone or IEM stand out from the crowd. The EM6L gives a good sense of instrument placement and depth in your head, and I really enjoy using it in a complex mix. This also translates into gaming as well, with a good ability to locate sounds in games, and this became my go-to choice for gamings when I'm using IEMs, or just for enjoyment listening. Overall, I am very happy with the sound of the EM6L, and I do think it stands out from the crowd when it comes to sound quality for the price. But what about the non-sound factors, comfort and build? Well, I am happy to say that they do well here too. The EM6L is somewhat smaller in size, and they have metal faceplates. The inner part of the shell is plastic or resin, but it doesn't feel cheap, and it sits well in my ear. The design is simple but classy, with a gloss black finish and small gold logos on both sides. The Simgot logo on the left and the Phoenix logo on the right. It also comes with a hard plastic case and the cable that I do quite like. The cable isn't prone to tangling, but it's not too stiff or heavy. It's actually a cable that I do quite like compared to even other IEMs that I've used. Overall, I do quite like the Simgot EM6L, and I recommend it if you find imaging and separation as an important factor for you in an IEM, or if you just want something that's immersive for gaming or complex music. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and maybe check out some of the other stuff.